Hey, this is Language Trump. Today we're talking about vowels. We're going to start with our Vowel Starter Kit, then we're going to talk about some other vowel series and how they develop, then we'll go through two sound changes, Vowel Reduction and Metaphony. Let's start with our Vowel Starter Kit, the 5-vowel system A, E, O, U. Now, of course, most languages have more vowels than this, and many have less or different vowels, but these guys are the basics of it all. You may have noticed I kind of separated these guys into 3 bits, front unround vowels, back round vowels, and the open vowel. This is because generally the open vowel will do a lot of its own stuff, sometimes symmetrizing or interacting with the other vowels, but generally having distinctions, while most of the symmetry happens amongst the backness and roundness series, overlapping with the height series. Note that the front and open vowels like to be unrounded and back vowels like to be rounded. First, let's talk about vowel height, ignoring open vowels for now. I like to think of vowel height as being kind of comparable to consonants' manner of articulation, although that's just a me comparison. As shown with the starter kit, there's typically some distinction in height, most commonly between the close vowel and the close mid vowel, although if you plan on chopping off vowels, the close mid ones will likely go first, leaving only open and closed vowels like in many Arabic dialects. However, the background series will sometimes have O without U, like in classical Nahuatl, or vice versa. If you wish to expand your vowel height distinctions, then the most common series to add are the open, mid, and near closed series. Now, vowels in general tend to be much more volatile and susceptible to random sound changes than consonants, especially when it comes to vowel height. So when you add these distinctions, you might want to either add them into your proto-lang to skip the trouble, or keep in mind that these 4 sounds are typically variations of more common sounds. And whenever you want to make one of these vowels less itself in some way, this is usually the way to go. Do note that the open mid and rare true mid vowels sometimes just replace the close mid series of a language, though. Next, there's the common distinction of vowel length, which is kind of comparable to geminate consonants, and can come about in about a bajillion different ways, such as random change, prosody, or hiatus collapse. The latter two I'll get into later. However, there is one useful sound change worth mentioning called compensatory lengthening, where a consonant is lost or lenited somehow, causing a nearby vowel to lengthen to compensate. Notably, vowel length also often relates to vowel height, one common way being after a length distinction is fully established, the shorter vowel might move to a lower height, becoming the lesser counterpart I mentioned earlier, with this happening much more commonly amongst mid-vowels than close ones. Although I have seen an interesting 3-way mid-vowel distinction appear a few times, like in ancient Greek where a short close mid or open mid-vowel contrasts with a long close mid and a long open mid vowel. Then there's diphthongs, which are kinda like vowel clusters, but I hesitate to make that comparison because clusters of vowels, or vowels in hiatus, do exist as a separate thing that often leads to diphthongs. Whenever vowels are in hiatus, the vowels of 2 syllables are next to each other without a consonant between them. Languages tend to not like this very much, so they'll either add a consonant between the vowels through epenthesis, usually this consonant being the glottal stop, or the 2 vowels and syllables merge, resulting in a diphthong or long vowel. Diphthongs also just show up through other random means, though, often from long vowels themselves. There are 5 main types of diphthongs in my mind, and this is very much a me categorization and my made-up terminology. There are open rising, where an open vowel rises to a close vowel, or rarely a mid-vowel, mid-rising, where a mid-vowel rises to a close vowel, mid-crossing, where a mid-vowel rises to a close vowel of a different backness and or roundness, close falling, where a close vowel falls to a lower vowel, usually an open vowel or the schwa, which I'll get into in vowel reduction, and close crossing, where a close vowel shifts to a close vowel of a different backness and or roundness. Now, I mentioned in my glide consonants video that semivowels next to vowels can often form diphthongs, and you can probably see why. Just look at which vowel your semivowel corresponds to, and you can probably figure out what diphthongs it'll want to form. Do note that there is often a distinction within a language between a semivowel followed by a vowel and a close falling or close crossing diphthong. But it is much less common for there to be a distinction between a vowel followed by a semivowel and any naturally resulting diphthongs. Next, let's get into vowel backness and roundness. I mentioned that back vowels like being round and front vowels unround, but that's not always the case. First, there's the front round series, which is one of the most common resulting new series of metaphony, which I'll get into. But there's also a separate unique sound change I've seen happen a few times with it. In French, the back round close vowel oo shifted into e, interestingly. thus leaving the back round series without a close vowel, and making a new front round series without a mid vowel. After this, O and O shifted to take these places. A similar thing happened in ancient Greek, where U shifted to I and O shifted to U, although in this language the mid-front round vowel never appeared. Of course, this series can develop through the front vowels rounding in certain circumstances, or the back round vowels fronting without U completely disappearing for a bit. But I found this way of the series developing interesting, and it is also an example of an extremely common vowel phenomenon called a change shift, where one vowel change causes a whole bunch of others. I didn't directly mention this, but French went on to have even more shifts stemming originally from the U shift. I'd say English is actually the wildest example of a change shift I've seen, and it's one of the reasons why English vowels are spelled so inconsistently and differently from other Latin alphabet-using languages. I'll link the Wikipedia page for it in the description. Next, we have the back unround and central unround series, which I'm putting in the same spot because whenever I see a language with a back unround series, usually at least one source claims it's actually central unround. And when I more commonly find a language with a central unround series, there's like a 1 in 3 chance I find a source that claims it's actually back unround. So while I know the distinction between the two, they develop from and into each other so much that I'm giving them a shared spot. As for how they develop, there is of course the unrounding of U that can occur in various circumstances, or the backing of E. Although, really, this is one of those series that develops inconsistently then stays for a long time, making it great for a proto-lang. I would like to mention that the close central unround vowel can quite often appear without a mid-central vowel, or with the schwa or even an open vowel acting as its mid-equivalent. The latter is also true for the front round series, where the close vowel tends to have more distinctions in frontness and backness than mid-vowels. Although when Scottish Gaelic gained the back close unround vowel through iotation shenanigans, it then developed the mid-equivalent through a couple of means, mainly the diphthong oi shifting into which does not match any of the usual Scottish Gaelic sound changes, and likely developed as a response to the close equivalence development. Other than that, though, U can often develop from vowel reduction or raising of the open vowel. Then we have the round central vowels, which I didn't merge with the front round vowels because those are much more consistently transcribed as themselves. And very notably, Norwegian and some other Nordic languages actually make a distinction between a full front round and central round series. And while there is probably also an equivalent to this for central unround and back unround, I have yet to find it. Usually, though, this series is either a variation of the front round series or the result of vowel reduction. Now, let's talk about open vowels. Most languages only have one short open vowel that may distinguish length or diphthongize, but this is usually the front open a, but can also be central near open or back open. Then from there, this vowel may be influenced by metaphony or other circumstances to gain versions more similar to other vowel series. One common way is getting fronted somehow in some circumstances, causing it to shift into the near open a or open mid e. This can also happen with the background series, resulting in the background o or background mid o. The fronting version is far more common though, and when it does happen, sometimes the original open vowel may shift to the back unround to dissimulate from the fronted near open vowel, as happened in English. Then we've got a weird phenomenon that I really wanted to fit into this video. Nasalized vowels, which often evolve from vowels being near nasals, and are phonemicized when those nasals are lost. Sometimes each vowel in a language will have a nasal equivalent, but sometimes instead there will be less nasal vowels than oral, like in French, which only has 3 or 4 depending on how you count, in the extreme example of Cherokee, which has one dedicated nasal vowel, the nasalized schwa. Now let's get into our sound changes, first being vowel reduction. But to explain that, first I have to explain prosody or stress. Many languages have in each of their words a stressed syllable. What exactly phonologically makes this syllable stressed can vary. Many languages have a pitch accent where the stressed syllable has a higher tone, or the stressed syllable may be longer. And this is in fact one of the big ways vowel length distinctions can develop. Or sometimes the stressed syllable may simply be louder. It's also common for it to be a combination of these factors. Where exactly the stressed syllable in a word can vary. In some languages there's a fixed stress, where the stressed syllable is always on a specific syllable within the word. For example, in these languages, the stress is on the first syllable. In Armenian, it's on the last syllable. In Quechua and Polish, it's on the second to last syllable. In Macedonian, it's on the third to last syllable. There is also an option of weight-based stress, where syllables of certain weights draw the stress away from its fixed point. This most commonly takes the form of syllables with long vowels or diphthongs, drawing the stress away from short vowels. Sometimes stress isn't predictable and is in fact a phonemic property of the word, like in Tagalog or English. This usually either happens from a weight-based stress system losing the distinction that originally moved the stress around, like what happened in many of the Romance languages, or through grammar shifts and other phonological shifts resulting in new stress patterns. For example, in a language where stress is on the initial, if the word gains a prefix, that prefix likely won't want to become stressed. So a word like asana becomes phonologically different from the affixed form of sena, in this case being asena. This goes for suffixes at the end of words in a language with final stress too. Many languages also notably have what is called secondary stress, where one or more syllables in the words are stressed, but slightly less. This commonly shows up due to grammaticalization too, mostly through compound words, but often otherwise has some rules allowing it to appear in normal words, like in these languages where primary stress might be fixed but secondary stress is weighted, or Dutch and Romanian, where every other syllable non-adjacent to the stress gets secondary stress. Now, vowel reduction is when some or all unstressed syllable vowel distinctions are lost, due to the fact that the speakers are less focused on that vowel. This usually starts with long vowels and diphthongs shifting to match similar short vowels, followed by more difficult distinctions among short vowels being lost, such as the close mid series merging into the open mid series, or vice versa. From there, the unique stuff begins. The first part of these simplified vowels to go is their backness, with most or all vowels becoming central versions of themselves. From there, the open vowel and any rebellious mid-vowels will likely all merge into the schwa. By this point, the close round vowel may have already merged into the close unround vowel or the schwa too. The close unround vowel is usually the last distinction to go, but in many languages such as Irish, the only thing that remains in an unstressed syllable at the end is the schwa. The schwa, which I've mentioned a few times already, is the true center of the vowel space. It is theoretically the easiest sound to pronounce. However, the reason it's not in every language, or not even in many languages, is because it generally dislikes being stressed, and can often repel stress even, effectively having a negative weight. And so any language that doesn't make much distinction between their stressed and unstressed vowels will likely lack it. Although, as soon as there's a hint of vowel reduction, the schwa will likely arrive quickly. As an extension of vowel reduction, let's talk about vowel loss, which can often relate to or be a result of vowel reduction. It is typically vowel loss won't affect stressed vowels. There are three main types: apharesis, or word initial vowel loss, syncope, or mid-word vowel loss, and apocope, or final word vowel loss. The first and the last of those are the most common, with apocope being a good bit more common. In order to allow word initial and word final vowels to be possible, though, these languages will usually have some vowels be immune to the loss, mainly long vowels, of course, or these changes will co-occur or interact with some form of consonant loss. The rarer cousin syncope, though, is much more useful in my opinion. This sound change may be influenced by factors like nearby consonants or such, but when it's influenced by stress, usually vowels immediately next to the stress are most likely to go. When syncope occurs extensively within a language, it might have an alternating pattern, like in Old Irish, where every other syllable vowel is lost, likely being based on an alternating secondary stress. Although some languages allow strings of unstressed syllables to all lose their vowels, leading to insane consonant clustering, of the likes of the Salishan and Cardavellian languages. Typically, if you want more complex consonant clusters, or plan to do stuff with unique consonant clusters, syncope is your way to go. Some languages actually lose all of their vowels within certain words, though, like in the aforementioned Salishan languages. Although this is rare, and typically when consonants get too far from a vowel, they start just adding some vowels in. One more common example of a vowelless syllable, though, are syllabic consonants, where nasals and liquids near a reduced vowel, typically the schwa, absorb it and become syllabic consonants, which are consonants that act like vowels. This occurs in English, actually, with the likes of little and kitten. Next sound change we've got is metaphony, which is when a vowel affects other vowels within the word in some way, making them more similar. First type being umlaut, named after the Germanic umlaut, where front vowels would shift back vowels to be fronted versions of themselves. It is notable that for this type of umlaut, the open vowel might either be ignored or treated as a back vowel and fronted in the same way, despite technically already being a front vowel. There are more types of umlaut than just fronting, though. There's also raising, typically where close vowels shift nearby mid-vowels into being close, lowering, where an open vowel or sometimes a mid-vowel shift nearby close vowels to be mid-vowels, and rounding, where round vowels shift nearby unround vowels to be rounded. Interestingly, backing and unrounding umlaut are near non-existent, and while every rule has an exception and I'm sure they're out there somewhere, I recommend not using them. I want to note here that for rounding and fronting umlaut, closed vowels are much more likely to affect nearby vowels. For example, often in fronting umlaut, only the vowel E has the ability to front nearby vowels. Although this isn't a necessary limitation, as there are many languages where mid and closed vowels can both trigger umlaut. I'd also like to note that umlaut can affect vowels before or after the trigger, although usually not both, and that affecting the vowel before the trigger is slightly more common. But both are naturalistic. Next, we have basically a bigger version of umlaut, vowel harmony. Vowel harmony is when all or most vowels within a word must share a specific factor, whether that be backness, roundness, height, ATR, or quite often some combination of these. ATR is something we haven't really covered yet, and I've heard vaguely conflicting stuff about it, but the way I have come to understand it is those less and more equivalents that I've been mentioning throughout the video, i.e. mid-open and mid-closed vowels, and close and near closed vowels, are plus and minus ATR versions of each other, and some languages only allow one ATR type to exist within a word. Sorry about that tangent, but as for general vowel harmony, it typically evolves as umlaut repeats and forms chains within a word. For example, in a fronting umlaut language, the word mubunuke might shift into mubunike. But at that point, what's stopping that U from now shifting O to I, and so on? Thus, when making a vowel harmony system, you can mostly just expand your umlaut system, although there are some complications to this. First, the open vowel does not like being changed most of the time. So while in some languages it follows the harmony just fine, in others it's either unaffected by it and allows the harmony to pass through it, or it blocks the harmony and shifts it to its own. Then there's also the issue of frontness and roundness umlaut. There's a bit of a disbalance, as usually the front round series can alternate with the background or front unround series just fine, but whatever series triggered the harmony wouldn't have a way to shift to match its opposite, leading to that whole series either being ignored or blocking the harmony, like in Finnish. A solution to this, though, is sometimes to, at that point, just develop a twofold system where all four combinations of frontness and roundness exist, like in Turkish, which is unique for being one of the only languages with both front round and back unround vowels. As for the triggers of the harmony, this can mostly be the same as the usual umlaut triggers, although sometimes there are weird examples where the stressed vowel or something controls the harmony. Harmony can also have a unique relation to affixing. While any affixes that were around when the harmony was formed will likely conform to the harmony somehow, new affixes could go either way. But mostly if the language already was highly affixing when the harmony formed and speakers are used to harmonizing affixes, then they are more likely to retrofit new affixes to fit the harmony. While if the language had fairly little affixation, it may not have enough precedent or reason to harmonize any new affixes it obtains. And that should be all for this video. Thank you for watching.